שלום במרומיו, יעשה שלום.
There's been massive debate in Anglo Jewry in the past few weeks as to whether we should take a unified stance in our support of the State of Israel or whether we should openly air our differences. It's been a noisy debate, a shrill debate, but it's the wrong debate, and it's deflecting us from the real issue. And if we seek it, we'll find it in this week's parashah. Listen to these words that are among the most fateful and reverberating in all of Jewish history. Vayakeh Yosef et achav v'hem lo hikiruhu. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they didn't recognize him. Now, the Torah is a deep book, and we make a great mistake if we think we can understand it on one superficial level. On the surface, the story is simple. Envious of him, Joseph's brothers initially planned to kill him. Eventually, they sell him into slavery. He's taken into Egypt, and through a series of vicissitudes, he becomes prime minister, second only in rank and power to Pharaoh. It's now many years later. The brothers have come to Egypt to buy food. They come before Joseph, but he no longer looks like the man they knew many years before. Then he was a 17-year-old called Joseph. Now he's 39, an Egyptian ruler called Sophnos Paneach, dressed in official robes with a gold chain round his neck, who speaks Egyptian and uses an interpreter to communicate with these visitors from the land of Canaan. No wonder they didn't recognize him, even though he recognized them. But that is only the surface meaning. Deep down, the book of Bereshit is exploring the most profound source of all human conflict. Freud thought the great symbol of conflict was Laius and Oedipus, the tension between fathers and sons. Bereshit thinks otherwise. The root of human conflict is sibling rivalry. Cain and Abel, Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau, and now Joseph and his brothers. Joseph has the misfortune of being the youngest. He symbolizes the Jewish condition. His brothers are bigger and stronger than he is. They resent his presence. They see him as a troublemaker. The fact that their father loves him only makes them angrier and more resentful. They want to kill him. In the end, they get rid of him in a way that allows them to feel a little less guilty. They concoct a story that they tell their father, and then they can settle down to life again. They can relax. There is no Joseph to disturb their peace anymore. And now they're facing a stranger in a strange land, and it simply doesn't occur to them that this man may be Joseph. As far as they're concerned, there is no Joseph. They don't recognize him now. They never did. They never recognized him as one of them, as their father's child, as their brother with an identity of his own and a right to be himself. Joseph is the Jewish people throughout history. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Judaism was the world's first monotheism, but not the last. Two others emerged, claiming descent, literal or metaphorical, from Abraham: Christianity and Islam. It would be fair to call the relationship between the three Abrahamic monotheisms one of sibling rivalry. Far from being of mere antiquarian interest, the theme of Bereshit, sibling rivalry, has been the leitmotif of the better part of the last 2,000 years, with the Jewish people cast in the role of Joseph. There were times, early medieval Spain was one, when Joseph and his brothers lived together in relative harmony, convivencia as they called it. But there were also times, the blood libels, the accusations of poisoning wells and spreading the plague, when they sought to kill him. And others, the expulsions that took place throughout Europe, from the English expulsion in 1290 to the Spanish expulsion in 1492, when they simply wanted to get rid of him, let him go and be a slave somewhere else, far from here. Then came the Holocaust, and then came the State of Israel. The destination of the Jewish journey since the days of Abraham, the homeland of the Jewish people since the days of Joshua. No nation on earth, with the possible exception of the Chinese, has such a long association with the land. the day the state was born, 14th of May, 1948, David Ben-Gurion, its prime minister, sought peace with Israel's neighbors, and Israel has not ceased seeking peace from then until now. But this is no ordinary conflict. Israel's opponents, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad of Iran, are not engaged in a border dispute, these boundaries or those. They deny, as a matter of religious, not political principle, Israel's right to exist within any boundaries whatsoever. There are today 56 Islamic states. But for Israel's neighbors, one single Jewish state the size of Wales is one too many. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. There is no other state among the 192 member nations of the United Nations whose very right to be is called into question this way. And while we as Jews argue among ourselves as to this policy or that, as if this were remotely relevant to the issue of peace, we fail to focus on the real issue, which is, so long as Joseph's brothers do not recognize his right to be, there can be no peace, merely a series of staging posts on the way to a war that will not end until there is no Jewish state at all. Until the sibling rivalry is over, until the Jewish people wins the right to be, until people, including we ourselves, realize that the threat Israel faces is ultimate and total, until Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah recognize that Jews have a right to their land within any boundaries whatsoever, all other debate is mere distraction. Shabbat Shalom.